Hi there. Well, welcome to today's episode on the Youth Arena. We trust you've been gaining a lot, learning a lot throughout the previous episodes. And over the times, we've been discussing how to grow your leadership influence. There's nothing as important as a leader having influence over the people he's leading. When he has influence, he's able to make necessary positive changes, and the organization is better able to become, more like better than it already is. There's always room for improvement, and there's always need to grow from point A to point B. Influence is at the center of every growth facilitated by a leader positively. We're channeling the energy of the leadership influence of a leader growing positively to the positive side. So it's very important for you as a leader to get the tips we are sharing in the course of this series, because it's not just going to help you personally in your personal leadership, it's going to help you grow in your organizational leadership. And today we're going to be discussing we're going to be following up rather on something we started in the last episode. Last episode we started discussing about the importance of prioritizing integrity, and today we're going to be wrapping it up by discussing how to become a person of integrity. It's not just enough to tell you how much you need to be a person of integrity, what integrity entails and all of that. I want to hand over practical tips on how you can start manifesting these things in your life and in your leadership, in your dealings with people who God has brought into your leadership. So relax, is going to be an exciting time, and I want you to also open up your mind and be willing to apply the strategies, the tips, the principles that I'm going to be sharing with you in the course of this program. So we're going to kick right off. Now, last week we started by making a very important statement, how integrity is connected to trust. Integrity being connected to trust, and I'm going to pick up from there in this particular program, in this particular episode. So integrity breeds trust, and without trust, you have nothing as a leader. Without trust, you have nothing. So a byproduct of integrity is that trust is bettered. And when trust is in place, it's easier to influence people who are around you when they trust you than when they do not trust you. Now, of course, trust is the single most important factor in personal and professional relationships. There's no true relationship where trust is not at the hub of it all. Even people who are in romantic relationships and all of that, when trust is lacking, the relationship is in shambles. And even in our day-to-day dealings with people, there are people we can't deal with on some matters simply because we don't trust them. Our relationship with them is more like that of the outer circle relationship, where you just greet them on the road when you see them and you pass. You can't have anything intimate with them because you don't trust the person. On the other hand, you deal more intimately with people who you trust. You deal more intimately with the people you trust. You are better able to open them up to some areas of your life where either only you or very, very few persons know about. So trust is the single most important factor in personal and professional relationships, is the glue that holds people together and the key to becoming a person of influence. The chances that you are to influence the person who trusts you is higher than the chances of you influencing people who do not trust you. So when people get to trust you, they are drawn closer into your circle so that you are able to influence them. The major influences we've had in our lives, or we still have in our lives, are from people who are very close to us. People who, for one reason or the other, we have a level of trust in them and a level of trust for them. It might not be 100% trust as per 360 degrees trust, but maybe in the line of career, you just trust that this person knows enough for you to learn from, or for you to be able to, draw from him. And that trust you give the person allows you to learn from the person and allows the person to influence you in that regard. So it's a very, very serious foundation for influence, trust. Very, very serious foundation, okay? Now, of course, we live in a world where it's very, very tough to get to trust people. That's why trust must be earned and not commanded. So you as a leader must understand that trust for you as a leader is something that is conferred on you by your followers, and is something that you have to earn. You have to earn. You don't just command trust, you earn trust. Of course, we live in a generation where a lot of dubious and wicked activities happen. Trust has been misappropriated over the years, and people have had experiences. I could recall back growing up, maybe hazily or thereabout, but some people from the older generation can bear witness with me that there was a time when You trusted people, you meet somebody for the first time, and all you have for the person is trust. You only stop trusting the person until, you only stop trusting the person whenever the person breaks that trust or gives you a reason not to trust him. But we live in a generation where we don't just trust you because you are a human being. No, we trust you because you've earned our trust. So it's harder to gain people's trust in our generation than it was some 50, 60, 70 years ago, when people were more sane than the people we have now. Okay, so as a leader, you must discover that you have a whole lot of work to do in gaining the trust of your followers. So due to the dubiousness and wickedness in our world today, trust comes from others only when you exemplify solid character. So when our characters are solid, the chances for us being trusted by the people that are in the circle of our leadership is higher than when we have, misfired and mismanaged character. Very important, okay? Now, to become a person who can be trusted in order to positively influence people's lives, you need to take note of a number of things. I'm going to show you things you need to do in order to become a person that can be trusted. And then I'll quickly show you how you can become a person of integrity, and we'll round up with this episode. It's going to be very, very exciting. All right, let's roll. Number one, if you want to become a person that can be trusted, you must learn to model consistent character. The key word there is consistency. You can be amazed at how much consistency can get you as an individual in any endeavor. Now, narrowing it down to character, the easiest way, or one of the easiest ways in order to get trusted by people who are within your circle of leadership, is for you to model consistent character. We want you to be that kind of leader that his words and his actions match up. A kind of leader that his words and his actions match up. And it doesn't end here. On a consistent basis. On a consistent basis, we should be able to trust you if that's the kind of life you live. So solid trust can develop only when people can trust you all the time. It's not just enough for you to do things that will make them trust you today, not trust you tomorrow, and all of that. The consistency there is what people are looking for. The consistency. The consistency, that's what people are looking for. Even in a normal life scenario, you could maybe just take a little time and think. If you are to go to a particular shop and you want to get maybe a pack of noodles, and you get there today, you're able to get what you want, you buy. You get there tomorrow, they say they don't have. You get there the next day, they say they don't have. You get there the following, the day after, and they have. You're able to buy. Meanwhile, there's another shop by the side that their stuffs are always they have stock. With time, no matter how close the one that is inconsistent in sales or in having products is to your house or to your home or to wherever, you will gradually shift to the ones who you are sure are consistent. Why? Because nobody wants to waste effort. Trust is a valued commodity that people don't have the luxury of time to waste on people who are inconsistent. That's why it's very important. You must develop a solid, consistent character. You must model consistency in your character. Number two, one of the things you need to understand if you must be trusted as a leader is that you must value transparency. You must value transparency. Now, it's like magic. But when people can follow you up on the process on how things are done, and they see the transparency there, they will trust you better than people who code every step of the way and they are not able to, understand what the process was like and where the process is heading to. So you must value transparency. You must value transparency. And a side to the transparency gist is that you shouldn't try to hide your flaws, especially when you are wrong. Everybody is seeing that you as a leader, this is actually wrong and is your fault. You don't need to try to cover it. Now, one way to get people on your side into your circle of trust and all of that is that you must learn to admit your weaknesses. And not just admitting your weaknesses or admitting your wrongs, you must accept the responsibility, first, that they are your mistakes, and secondly, accept the responsibility to become better in whatever weaknesses has been pointed out. I, for one, I believe that the purpose of our discovering our weaknesses as leaders or as individuals is not for us to glory in those weaknesses. It is for us to work on them and become a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday. So it's actually not the best thing for you as a leader or for you as an individual to keep, going about telling everybody, anytime you get angry or anytime you do something stupid, that's who I am. There's a reason why you've discovered that there's a weakness there. It's for you to work on it and become better, and not for you to glory in them. So aside to the transparency gist for the leader, rather, who really desires to gain the trust of his followers, is that you must learn to accept your mistakes, learn to accept your faults. You are not perfect. You are a human being. You must learn to accept your faults, accept your mistakes. That's being transparent. You are trying to show them that you are not a superhuman. Don't ever make that mistake of modeling, yourself to people as a perfect person in whom there is no guile, in whom there's no mistake, because you will definitely fall short. Okay? We don't glory in our weaknesses either. When discovered, we have discovered what we should work on to become better versions of ourselves. Okay? The next thing you must understand, if you must command trust from people you are leading, is that you must prioritize exemplifying humility. What does that mean? You must learn to be humble. You must learn to be humble, okay? I wrote here, I said, people won't trust you if they see you as somebody who is driven by ego, jealousy, or the belief that you are better than they are. And we see most leaders who are in powerful capacities live lives in this way and communicate non-verbally these things we just mentioned. So as a leader, you must be humble. And in your speech, in your words, in your actions, in your thoughts, and all of that, let it be seasoned with humility. Don't ever be in a space where you are, throwing it at people's face that, if they were as good as you are, they would be where you are. That's you're already sending the wrong vibes and the wrong signals. People will shrink from you if that's the vibe they are getting from you. Maybe one of these days we'll talk about the power of non-verbal communication, because most people don't even know the vibes they send out by their attitude and dispositions and facial expressions and all of that. And even though you mean well at heart, your non-verbal communication says a whole lot. It even gets worse when your verbal expression matches with the non-verbal expression and communication that people have been receiving from you all the while. So you must exemplify humility. Very, very important. Always let people know that you are not better than them. You could be good at what you do, but it doesn't in any way give you room to rub it on their faces that you are better than them. You could be better than them, but it's just a matter of time. You are where you are because God has placed you there, and you are there to inspire people and not to either manipulate them or intimidate them. To exemplify humility, okay? The next point I have here, I said you must learn to demonstrate support for others. In a world where everybody, or let me not use the word everybody, most persons are selfish, the person who is selfless stands out. If you look at the people around you and it's easy to detect that everybody is just out for himself. Everybody seems to be out. Let me not be so concrete now. Everybody seems to be out for himself. You rarely find people who do things just for the benefit of others. Are there people who do things for the benefit of others? Yes. But what I'm saying is that in a world where we have so many selfish persons, the selfless ones who are very, very scanty are hard to find. And in any place where they are found, they stand out. You could be that kind of person. People gravitate towards the people who they feel are selfless. That's why if you come, for instance, now in a school, a campus leadership setting where, we have a sisters coordinator. There's this attraction people have to the president and the sisters coordinator, and perhaps, I'm not sure now, perhaps every other position, in the fellowship, that they are gravitated towards them because they don't seem to project their own problems and their own interests in a way. This might not be the perfect example, but just get what I'm saying. But they seem to be in that space where most times people even forget that campus presidents are students. But because they project the interest of others above theirs, people seem to gravitate towards them. That's selflessness. Now, of course, ladies in the same way, if you see a lady who is selfless, who is more interested in how you can save more than how you can spend on her, who is more interested in your welfare more than, her own welfare, these tiny, tiny salient things. Maybe you call a lady, the context of a romantic relationship now, you call a lady today, tomorrow, next tomorrow, and she wants to call you back because she feels, come on, you are not the only person you're supposed to be calling. I can do something about it so that you don't spend all your money and all of that. I'm just trying to paint a picture. That's selflessness, and it's rare. And you stand out if you are that kind of person. So as a leader, you must learn to demonstrate support for others. How? By being selfless. You must learn to put others first in a selfish world like ours. Nothing displays the quality of your character than this. There could be other things, but I sure know for one that this one stands out. Selflessness. You must learn to demonstrate putting others first before you, okay? Now, the next point you must understand if you must get people to trust you is that you must learn to fulfill promises. First of all, never promise anything you can't deliver. And when you say you will do something, follow through on it. Sometimes people make empty promises. Sometimes they know they can't fulfill it. They just go ahead to say it anyway, maybe just to wow you and all of that. When I was preparing this, something came to my mind. In church settings, especially in the Anglican church setting, I think this is the period of harvests and all of that. I remember those days when we were young. There seem to be particular men whom the church views as rich, but over the past 2-3 years, they've not even been able to renew their, redeem their pledges over the years. They come out because everybody has a particular perception of them, maybe. They give or put a particular amount of money, everybody claps, and then as at the next year, Thanksgiving or something, their names are still being mentioned as people who have not yet redeemed their pledges, and the excitement that seems to have been built up over years, maybe because of what they've done in the past, seems to keep going down because over the years, they've been making promises and they've not been delivering on it. The same thing applies to you as a leader in your small circle. If you want to gain the trust of people who are in your circle, you must learn to under-promise and over-deliver. Don't say what you know you cannot do. And if you say something, follow through on it. Every organization wants to work with somebody who they can hold to their words, who you can commit something to, or who, if they tell you that something is going to get sorted out, the manager or the person in charge just goes to rest knowing that it's as well as sorted. Okay? Now, a sure way to break trust with others is to fail to fulfill your commitments. So as much as it lies within your power as a leader, keep to your commitments, keep to your promises, and the trust level of people who are within your circle will keep rising. We'll go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll continue. Thank you very much. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for not leaving me and running away. All right, I trust you've been learning a lot. Now we're going to continue from what we're talking about. How do you get to earn the trust of people who are within your leadership circle? And I've mentioned a number of things. Let me just do a recap. Number one, I said it's important that you model consistency of character. Number two, it's important you value transparency. Number three, it's important you exemplify humility. Number four, it's important you demonstrate support for others. Number five, it's important you learn to fulfill your promises. That was the last thing we said before we went on the very short break. And to continue on that, the next thing you must understand and commit to memory and also practice is that you must learn to embrace an attitude of service. Learn to embrace an attitude of service. We are on earth to serve, and the giving of ourselves, our gifts, talents, and time to others is how we both serve them and show them that we care for them. When you care for people and serve people, they trust you more because they come to think and realize that you have their interest at heart. Nobody wants to commit his life or his savings or his valuables, whatever it is, tangible or intangible, to somebody who they feel does not care for them. And that's the reason why most establishments are dwindling, because the people who are managing the organizations, maybe in cases where it's not the person who founded it that is heading it, sometimes they manage organizations handed over to them as people that they think does not concern. After all, it's not my father's business. So they can handle it anyhow. Their thoughts. Very wrong. But if you want people to get to trust you, you have to, show them that you care. How? By giving your service, giving your time, giving your gifts, giving your talents, and all of these things. You both show service to them and you show that you care for them. Okay? Now, the next thing you must understand is that people of integrity are more interested in what they can give and not just what they can take. That should be you. You must be more interested in what you can give and not what you can take. At this point, let me talk about the power of volunteering. Most people are looking for where they can be paid before they do something. Meanwhile, if you understand how powerful it is to volunteer, to serve, without necessarily expecting something in return, you will understand that within the circumference of your volunteering, your service, not expecting anything, lies the ability for you to get the greatest of the blessings that God has designed for you. So in line with service, when you are a servant, when you have the servant leader mindset, people are able to gravitate more to you and trust you better. Okay. Now, the next thing you must understand is that if people must get to trust you, is that you must learn to be sensitive to the needs of the people you are leading. Learn to be sensitive to them. Watch their moods. You are not smiling today. Hope all is well. You are super excited. Give me the gist. What's the good news? What's happened? It shows them that you are observant. You are sensitive to their needs and all of that. Now, I wrote here, I said, the goal of influence is to inspire and not to manipulate. And people will listen to and follow you. Learn to be sensitive to their needs, moods, and all of that. Genuinely care for them and carry them along in what you are doing as a leader. Genuinely care for them. It's part of being sensitive. It's part of training them. You're part of being sensitive, training them is that you are sensitive to the fact that they need to grow. They need to become better than they already are. So be sensitive to their needs. When somebody doesn't show up for a meeting, don't just blast the person. Ask why. Get to find out the reason why first, and then know how to handle it. Be sensitive to their needs. It could also entail your having to learn their temperament so that you know how to deal with them. There are people that learn more when silently, the word I know, when you calmly, that's the word I'm looking for, when you calmly caution them. Some others might need you to come out, sternly and, firmly before they can hear what you are saying. Study them, learn them, know how to follow them. And when they understand that you understand them and you are following them the way they are designed and wired to be followed, then they gravitate to you, they trust you, and you're able to influence their lives. Okay? Now, only as you include others in your life and success do you ultimately succeed. If they are not part of your success growth, if you don't integrate them into your life for them to learn and all of that, they are most likely not going to succeed. And if when they don't succeed, you as a leader, you don't succeed. Now, once these factors I mentioned are in place, you will earn people's trust and confidence, which is an enabling ground for increased influence. When these factors are in place, you're already creating an enabling ground for you to be able to influence them. It works. It works. Just apply them and trust God to help you, to influence the lives of people He has brought around you. Now, I wrote down here, I said, you will be able to also impact their lives when these factors are in place, but it's also the time for you to be careful because power can be a dangerous thing. Now, hear what Abraham Lincoln said. He said, nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. So when you begin to gain influence over the people you are leading, you need to pay more attention to your character because that's when the true test of your character comes in. Therefore, the more influential you become, the greater the test of your character. Most people fall victims for this, even the best of people. Once influence starts growing, there's a tendency that we relax in watching our character and all of that. But that's when we should be on the highest alert. Be on the highest alert, okay? Now, how do you become a person of integrity? And then we'll round up in the episode. How? How? That's the word. That's the question. How do I become a person of integrity? You've heard all we said. You've heard how you need to gain trust and all of that. How do I now become a person of integrity? Number one, you must learn to know this thing. And I'm going to say it now. I say, know ahead of time what you stand for. You must sit down and craft what your values and your standards are. And trust me, the best way to draw, or the best place to draw your values and standards from, is from the Bible. I believe I'm talking to leaders, and you should be a Christian leader. Draw your values and standards from the scriptures, from the Bible. Lay it down, internalize it ahead of time. It's easier for you to do the right things, when you've resolved what the right things you should do and stand for before time, I don't know, let me rephrase so that you understand it better. Decide ahead of time what your standard and values are. When the time comes ahead of time for you to do the right thing, you wouldn't need to think twice about it. You just know what to do because you have standards, you have values, and they are drawn from the scriptures. Okay, very, very important. Commit yourself to honesty. Commit yourself to being reliable. Let people know you for these virtues. Let people know you for these values. But first of all, decide in your heart that these are the values you should abide by. If you are a Christian, the Bible it should be your handout for life. That's what it should be. We are Christians and we don't live anyhow. We are Christians and we are modeled after the life of Christ. And that's what our lives should be. That's what our leadership should model. Compassion, truthfulness, honesty. We should be reliable. We should be trustworthy. And all of these virtues to the glory of God. Okay? Now, the second thing you must understand is that you must decide ahead of time that you do not have a price to your integrity. Nothing should be able to buy you out. Not circumstances, not situations, not challenges of life, nothing. And this is also possible when you decide ahead of time. See, no one at the point of challenges makes a decision or builds his values and integrity and executes it at that point. There's so much pressure at the point of challenges and all that the only thing you act out is what you've known before then. So get to imbibe these things, get to know these things, get to internalize them long before you hit life's challenges. As to whether they will come, they will come. You will be tempted with money. You will be tempted with all manner of things that contradict what you are to stand for as a believer. And you must start now to decide what those things are that you stand for, and those things you can't compromise on long before they come. Don't wait for the fire to come before you start devising the means on how to quench it. Devise your strategies right now, your standards, your morals, lay them down, their strategies and all of that, so that when your time comes, you don't need to look for where to pull out arsenals or tools to fight whatever battles. They are there already. You pull them out and you apply. I said something, I'm going to repeat it again. Nobody ever gets to make decisions on the spot on how to handle issues based on what he just learned or generated immediately. You get to put those things in place before that time, so that when the time comes, you will know what to do. That's number 2. Number 3, you must learn to measure in the minor things. What do I mean by that? Say, if you consistently do what's right in the little things, you are less likely to wander off course in the big things. So begin now, as little as it may seem. When you say something, follow it through to see it to accomplishment. Don't just make empty promises. Don't just make empty promises. Follow it through till the end. So begin with the little things, give it concentration, give it focus, give it attention, grow in the little things, build consistency in the little areas of your character, and when the big things come, you know what to do and you won't be able to deviate. Now, finally, as we round off, what is the next thing you need to do in building integrity or becoming a person of integrity? You must learn that it is impossible to uphold what is right without absolute dependence on the Spirit of God. It's absolutely impossible. Why? Because we live in a flawed world and we have influences bombarding us right, left, and center on a regular basis. You must learn to depend absolutely on the Spirit of God. I wrote here, I said, the greatest ally of a Christian leader is the power at work in him. The power at work in you is your greatest ally. We are to lead on the outside from the inside. You must value the Spirit of God at work in you, and you must depend on him. It's called following the leadership of the Spirit. It's your greatest asset as a leader. And when you commit these things to memory and put them into practice, we trust God that without any shadow of doubt, you will become a person of integrity that your world will celebrate. Thank you very much for being with us throughout this episode. We trust you've learned a lot. Till we'll come your way next time. It's the same person, I'm KCAZ, and we'll keep learning and growing our leadership influence. Thank you very much. See you next time.